Hello and welcome to Flix and Chill with me, Luke. Today I have a very special guest on my show. It's Diana. So
Hi.
please introduce yourself, take it away.
Thank you so much for having me, Luke. My
Mhm.
name is Diana Gebbia. I'm like, I always, whenever someone says introduce yourself, I'm like, what am I doing now? Like, I have so many things going on at one time. So currently I am the host of the Ruthless Obsession podcast, also on the SPDM Crew network of podcasts, family of podcasts. I host that with Shane Ponto. It
Mhm.
is a wrestling podcast, which
Mhm.
we have a lot of fun talking all the big wrestling headlines of the week.
Mhm.
Um, I am also a host on the FNL network talk show. We are two-time Taste Award winners, which is really exciting. Um, I have an Instagram where I don't really post as much anymore, but if you like reality TV stuff, at Diana Gebbia, I do a lot of reality TV content there, or I did, and you can browse through.
Mhm.
Pretty much, I'm a host. I'm a writer. I write for Sif Pop. I also write for the LA Girl. Um, yeah, and I have a big mouth and I like talking. So
Nice. So first of all, do you mean ruthless obsession, as Shane always says it?
yeah.
I love that intro. Like it's so
Yes.
funny. And the second, see, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't actually invite you here because of the Ruthless Obsession and the SPDM crew link. I invited you here because I listened to you on Franchise Paradiso on when they had you on one of their
Oh
episodes,
yeah.
and I was like, damn, seems so much fun,
Thank you.
and I was like, I like. In the best way possible. I really hope you're gonna take this the best way possible. You seem
Yeah.
like that kind of girl or a woman who is like glass of wine in one hand and is gonna slap the shit out of me with a second hand. And I'm kind of like, this is the image.
Yes.
Just like, she talks big game and I think she can, throw hands if needed. And and again, I really don't want this to come across as like, mean. So like
No,
please.
not at all. That's like the one of the best compliments I've ever received, along with my nephew. He's like my nephew by friendship,
Mhm.
asking one of his dads if Courtney Cox is my sister because she looked like me in Scream 2. I'm like, that is
Oh.
another great compliment I've gotten. So I love it. Thank you.
I mean, being compared to Courtney Cox in like late 90s, beginning of 2000s, that's a great compliment.
Right?
So I, I'll take like I'm getting compared to, hey, are you the trash man? Like from last Tuesday? No, I actually don't work here at all. Oh, sorry. And then I just go on my way. I just go on, just yeah. No, and yeah, so you gave me like this kind of energy, and I did ask you before the recording if you related to Fran Drescher because the laugh, I just live for the laugh. Uh, just so great.
Thank you. Yeah, guys, I'm not related to Fran Drescher, sadly. I wish I was. She's awesome.
Oh
I grew
no.
up on the nanny. Like my
Hmm.
mom always had it on, or like she told me it would be funny and she had it on when I was a kid. I actually like I had to tell people like about the nanny. Like some people don't know about her. Like there's this one guy who he actually works with a famous director. I won't like name drop, but he
Okay.
didn't know who Fran Drescher or the nanny was. And I was
Hmm.
like, excuse you, now we have to watch The Nanny. And I made him watch it and he really
Hmm.
liked it.
Hmm. That Nanny is one of those sitcoms that was always on back in Czech Republic, and so
Yeah.
I would sporadically watch it. Like I've never watched the entire thing, but I've seen quite a lot of episodes. And of course, like we have it dubbed there, so there's a Czech dubbing, and
Mhm.
the Czech dubbing tried to give the laugh a shot, but so there was a definitely first time I heard her like iconic laugh. I was like, oh, so this is how she sounds like. I get it now.
Yeah.
And it's so great. And hearing you laugh, also so great. Just brings back so many memories.
You're so sweet. Thank you. You're just
Not a
gassing
problem.
me up. I love it.
Not a problem. So, like, okay, if you, let's go back, let's go into it. Let's, talk about, so obviously, we both love movies, right?
Yes.
But besides the movie part, besides that, what makes Diana Diana? What are some of your likes? What are some of your dislikes? If you happen to have, let's say, a Tinder profile, what would your bio say?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that because I actually have a very curated dating profile bio
Oh.
that I've worked on with a coach. Um, So I can just read it. We can go from there.
Go for it.
So my about me,
Hmm.
I'm a no BS New Yorker with a heart of gold, a woman of my word looking for a man of his. I'm hoping you'll enjoy my twisted and sometimes offensive humor, all in good fun. I love being a host, and I'm looking for someone who is passionate about work, life, and love as I am. And then one of the prompts says, I'm a real nerd about, and it says cross stitching, Danny Elfman scores, Tim Burton movies. We'll get along if you're honest, emotionally mature, love true crime, horror, and WWE, and are looking for the real deal partnership. Bonus points if you quote SpongeBob daily. And then the last thing is what makes a relationship great is open communication, feeling like you could be your true self, and having a plan of where to eat in case I can't decide.
That's a very well tailored profile, I'll say. Like,
Thank you. I have to give credit. My coach Claire helped me out a little bit. So,
mhm, mhm.
yeah.
As a person who's actually spent his fair share of time on like Tinder and profile, dating sites like these before I met my girlfriend of almost
Hmm.
6 years now, I'm
Wow.
like, yeah, I know, right? Time flies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, and again, we actually met on Tinder, so
That's great. Oh,
it
there is
works.
hope. I love that.
It works. Well, it works if you know what you're looking for, which it seems like you know what you're looking for.
Yes.
Because there's
Yeah.
many of, hey, what are you looking for? One night stand? One night stand? One night stand? And it's like
Yeah.
some people are just for that. Some others are like, no, no, not for me. No, but like I don't think I remember seeing a profile that goes as detailed as you and also as eloquent as you. Like most of it's like they like bullet points, which is nothing wrong with bullet points, but it's rarely like full sentences.
Yeah.
So Danny Elfman, Tim Burton, okay, and
Mhm.
SpongeBob.
Yes.
Cool. No questions. Let's move on. No,
No notes.
10 out of 10. No, so okay, so Tim Burton. Let's talk about Tim Burton for a bit.
Yeah.
What is your favorite Tim Burton movie?
I'm a big Edward Scissorhands girly. I
Hmm.
do love Beetlejuice too, but I think there's just something about like the whimsical, like fantasy world of Edward Scissorhands set in the middle of Florida.
Hmm.
It's just that juxtaposition, and you have that like quaint little town, and then Edward comes in. I am a huge Winona Ryder fan. Obviously, she's in Beetlejuice too, but I love seeing the softer side of her as Kim Boggs.
Hmm.
Um, Diane Louise, she nailed it as Peg. Like it's just an awesome cast. The soundtrack rocks.
Hmm.
It's got my favorite Danny Elfman score, which is Ice Dance, and it's a soundtrack I can have on all the time. Like I could tell you what song comes next. Like I know I hum it. I was at a Halloween thing and they had the Story Time by Danny Elfman on, and I was like, "This is on the Edward Scissorhands soundtrack," and
Hmm.
everyone looked at me funny because they're like, "What is she talking about?"
Hmm.
um, but yeah, no, it's just I love that fantasy world and the darkness of Edward, and like mixed with the color and vibrant like just happiness of that little like town, which is really in Florida. I would love to go visit that town one day.
Yeah. Which, you living in New York, like that's not that far if I'm not mistaken. Like obviously like it's quite a lot, like, but it's not
Well,
unachievable.
yeah. So I was born and raised in New York.
Hmm.
So at the time, that would have been like a 2.5, 3 hour flight. But
Hmm.
now I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh,
So
I
it's
see.
yeah, it's more like a 5 hour flight now, which like
Hmm.
it's longer for people in the US, but to you, I'm sure that's like a piece of cake.
5 hours. No, 5 hours is a fair amount. Like,
Yeah.
only recently I've been on my first like transatlantic flight, and that took like 14 hours. So that was fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I think
was
the
great.
longest I ever did was 10 hours, and that was coming, I think that was going to France from Newark. And that was like 10 hours. And I was like, get me off this plane. I'm a wimp. And I had to fly like cross country to visit my family. So you think I would be used
Hmm.
to it, but I just dread it every single time. I
Yeah.
hate that flight. It's so boring.
So how long have you lived in Los Angeles then?
4.5 years. So I came
Nice.
in October, almost 4.5 years. I came in October 2019. So it was literally I had 5 good months.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
the pandemic hit, and it kind of, I always say it caused me to grow up really quickly. Not that I wasn't grown up. I moved to LA, I was 27. So like I was grown up, but it was my first time living that far away from my family. Like I
Hmm.
had lived on my own, but it was when I moved to Jersey and they were still in New York. So we were really only an hour away.
Yeah.
But, to be a plane ride away from your family when flying is heavily discouraged and like the whole world is just changing before your eyes, like I really had to like woman up and deal with the isolation. Like that
Hmm.
was the hardest part. I was like, okay, I'm isolated. I'm in this new city. I barely know anyone here. I
Hmm.
can't even see the people I barely know. So
Yeah.
what can I do to make the most out of this? And I went like driving a lot. Like that's how I learned this city.
Hmm.
I just drove down the roads because there was no traffic, which is like highly uncharacteristic for LA.
I was gonna say LA traffic is notoriously like bad, but yeah, during the pandemic, of course, there's no traffic, so that would be
Yeah,
kind
nobody
of
was
cool.
driving. So I could get to like the other side of town in like 20 minutes, which is so unusual.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's how I really learned all the roads. And then I would just go for walks in my neighborhood. And then once we were allowed to do hikes again with our masks on, I went for hikes. And, I not that I would ever want to live that again, but like, it was a very interesting way to get acclimated to a new home.
Hmm. So is it fair to say now you've acclimated, like fully?
Yeah, yeah, this is my home. I love it here. I'm still in the same apartment. I
Hmm.
know my part of town really well.
Hmm.
I know the activities, I know the way of life here.
Hmm.
I still stick out like a sore thumb a little bit just because I'm from the East Coast and like people in LA, they're so the people that are from here that are like born here are like cool, but some of the transplants, like it's like what can I do for you is like, or what can they do for me is their mentality. Then that's, I'm not friends with many of those people. A lot of my friends I know are from like the East Coast. Like I
Hmm.
met them through mutual friends from home. So like obviously they're gonna be cool people. But
Yeah.
you come across your people that are like just only in it for what you can do for them.
Like
It's
connections,
industry stuff.
yeah, like city of connections, like, oh, I'll be your
Yes.
friend, but you do this for me, and then eventually I might do this for you down the road.
Exactly. Like
Hmm.
scratch my back and maybe I'll scratch yours type
Yeah, yeah.
thing.
Hmm.
And I notice people out here aren't as solid with plans, which
Mm.
that's not to say everyone, like one of my best friends, she's like born and raised out here and she's not like this, but like you can't make plans with people, like call them up and be like, what are you doing tomorrow? Like a lot of people out here are like, okay, let's mark it on the calendar for like 3 weeks from now. And I'm like, I don't know
Hmm.
what the hell I'm doing 3 weeks from now. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I ate for breakfast this morning.
Mm.
But yeah, they're kind of flaky in that way. So that was a little bit of an adjustment, but I've found my crew that's not like that. So, and the ones that kind of are like, you kind of just don't take it personally. And you're like, I love all these other. Mhm.
All right, so here's the thing. Okay, what I'll ask is this. As somebody who's a native New Yorker, as you said, born and
Mhm.
raised, and now moved to LA, and you've been living there for almost 5 years, what would you say is the major difference between, being in LA and living in New York?
Yeah. So they say that people in New York are, what is it? They're nice, but not kind. And people in LA are kind, but not nice. And what that
Ah.
means is in New York, we're very fast paced. We're often just like head in our phones or like head just like straight ahead, walking to where we need to go.
Hmm.
But so like we don't do small talk. But if someone were like, had fallen in the middle of the street or needed something, like we'd give you the shirt off our back.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go out of way to start a conversation about the weather.
Hmm.
Whereas, like people in LA, they say, and this is like a super generalization, obviously, not everyone's like that, but they'll be the ones to start the small talk with you. But when it's time to walk the walk, like they're not as solid, like they
Hmm.
won't go out of their way to do stuff for you.
Hmm. I see. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, okay. Because like, yeah, see, there's a stereotype, right? Because
Yeah.
I've never been to the United States at all, whatsoever. So, there's always a stereotype that Americans, and again,
Yeah. Yeah.
Americans are fake. Like in a sense
Mhm.
where, they'll smile at you, they'll, laugh at you, and the moment you turn your back on them, they'll just bitch about you and how awful you are and this and this and this, and we are more straightforward. So it's kind of
Yes.
fascinating to me. And then I met, obviously talked to quite a lot of Americans because of Sitpop. And then I realized it's not just like, it's not Americans, it's maybe certain like, and I've heard of LA being that kind of
Yeah.
fakey, like, oh, everybody's your friend, and then once you're not in a group, suddenly like, oh, have you seen what she was wearing? Have you seen what he was doing? Like, what the fuck is this?
Hmm.
So can you confirm, is that the case, or is it just like, prejudice we still hold and it's not really accurate?
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely you nailed it. Like with the
Hmm.
people who aren't as cool out here, that's pretty much the
Hmm.
deal. Yeah, I would say New Yorkers are pretty straightforward. Like we don't have any shame. We're straight shooters.
Hmm.
A lot of us are loud, especially if you're Italian. Um, and yeah, no, that's like the major thing like I've had to deal with, but I found my crew
Hmm.
who, a lot of them are from the East Coast or like they're from out here originally and they're native and like it's just they're really cool and like they don't have like a lot of the people who are born out here, they're not trying to be in the entertainment industry. I think the entertainment industry just has a lot to do with it. So it's not so much like they're not looking to ladder climb or social climb. So
Yeah.
it's like I could be real with them and they appreciate it.
Hmm. No, that's fascinating. That's fascinating. And
Yeah.
so if I ask you, where do you prefer? Because obviously you said you're home there right now, like LA is your home, right?
Yeah.
Would you, let's say, okay, let me phrase this like this. Let's say you'd have the same business opportunities and like, you have in LA, you would have it exactly the same in New York. Would you move back or would you still stay in LA?
I would stay in LA.
All right.
I just the weather here is so much better.
I
I
see.
hate snow. Like I
Mhm.
can't deal with snow.
Oh,
And
okay.
New York and New Jersey just get a decent amount of snow. And when
Hmm.
it's not in the winter, it's very cold.
Hmm.
So I'm a little spoiled here. Like I went out to go get my coffee this morning and it was 55 degrees, and I'm like, oh, it's chilly out today. And that's nothing. I've gone soft. But I always joke, I'm like, if I could take all my family and friends in New York and New Jersey and move them to LA, that would be the perfect scenario. And the food, because we don't have, like in LA, we don't have very good Italian food. There's like few places that can really do it right. Bagels are not good out here. Some of them are like you have to find the places that know how to do it. Same with pizza. And it's something in the water. Like New York water has like some like mineral or something in it that like
Hmm.
just makes your dough and for the bagels and the pizza crust like top notch. And like we don't have that out here. So like the crust is not great.
Okay, okay. So just your family and the food, really.
Yes.
But everything else, like everything else, and obviously, yeah, okay. I can dig it. I can dig it.
Mhm.
Okay. So, all right. So, if I were to ask, yeah, Diana, I'm coming to LA because let's talk
Mhm.
LA. I'm coming there for a week, just to visit. Where would you recommend me? What do I need to see in that week? Where would we go? Where we go to eat? Because you mentioned
Yeah.
food. Do you have some recommendations, places we need to see?
Yeah, this is a great time to ask me because my best friend just flew in for the first time to see me. She had never been out here. So like last
Nice.
week I was playing tourist with her. So definitely because of your love of movies,
Hmm.
we would go to do the Warner Brothers tour, which I did with my friend last week. I've done it 4 times. And every time you go, like you learn something different because you have a different tour guide. And then
Hmm.
people in your little cart might want to know about different shows and movies. So it's like you learn different facts every
Hmm.
time you go. And they take you through the back lots. So you get to see practical sets, you get to see facade sets. Um, and then once you're done going through that, they take you on a sound stage, which is really cool. So I've been on the sound stage for Fuller House, and I've been on the sound stage for All American, Bob Hart's Abishola, and then I don't remember what there was one over the summer I did. I don't remember what it was, but it's
Hmm.
really cool. Like you see, these like shows you're used to seeing on TV, and like you learn that our brains are so used to like filling in the blanks. So when it's in front of you, like your mind kind of imagines what the rest of it would look like. But when you're there on the set and
Yeah.
it's just one room and it's very like almost two-dimensional, but your mind is making it 3D because like you turn around and it's not another part of a house. It's literally you're looking at an audience or you're looking at another set.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see that. So I would say we would do that. Universal Studios, obviously a fun theme park, but they also have a nice little backlot tour.
Mhm.
Um, that's pretty cool. And they have like a couple of interactive rides and stuff while you're on the tour. Um, Disneyland, we did that too. I'm a Disneyland magic key holder, so I have like an annual pass. So I always bring my friends to Disneyland.
Mhm.
As far as eating goes, what kind of food are you into?
Any.
Oh,
Like
any
literally,
food.
like, I'm not picky.
Okay, I love that. So LA has the best Mexican food. Like I
Oh
would
yes.
say, like New York has the best Italian food, but like LA, because we are so close to Mexico, like
Mhm.
we've got some great Mexican food. Like the
Mhm.
avocados here rock, so you're gonna get great guacamole. So there's, I would say for fun, we would go to El Coyote. That restaurant was actually in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh
And
nice.
it's really where Sharon Tate had her last meal, and like they show you the booth where she had her last meal.
Mhm.
And they do like flaming, I think like flaming tequila shots, which like I can't do tequila shots, but if you like, if you're into that, that would be fun.
Yes.
Um, where else do I like? Oh, there's a place for breakfast sandwiches called Egg Slut. And that's
Nice.
really fun, and they make really good breakfast sandwiches.
Mhm.
So we could hit up Egg Slut. Um, and then yeah, like the other basic stuff, like there's the Grove and the Americana, and those are kind of two like outdoor
Mhm.
malls. And I'm sure you guys always think that like Americans are kind of all about like the shopping and
Yeah.
the excess. So those are like two examples of like how we fit into that. So it would be fun for you to see. There's like a ton
Mhm.
of things to do here. There's Little Tokyo. There's all like they have like Japanese restaurant, like authentic Japanese restaurants and
Mhm.
supermarkets and clothing stores and stores where they sell like little like the knickknacks. And I got like chopsticks there. What else did I get? Glass noodles. I got like a really nice Japanese line of body lotion. So it's kind of
Mhm.
cool to see all that too. That's what I love about LA. Like it's really diverse. Like all the different neighborhoods are diverse. We
Yeah.
would go to the beach, like Venice Beach is something to see. It gets a little crazy there. Santa Monica Pier. There's just a ton of things to do here.
Mhm. So you mentioned like, going to see like how series like TV shows are made and how it's just
Mhm.
a, set. Have you ever actually attended some taping of any shows?
Yes.
Oh,
Nothing like a live sitcom, but I've done America's Funniest Videos. I've done twice. I've done the Kelly Clarkson Show, and
nice.
then yeah. Oh, I've done the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction and the American Music Awards.
Damn, that's pretty
Yeah,
good. That is
yeah.
pretty good. Who was the
Mm-hmm.
guest on a Kelly Clarkson show?
It was Justin Hartley, I think his name is. He's from This Is Us, and he also
Mm,
was married to Chriselle from Selling Sunset, and it was like the big thing on that season where they got divorced. So
hmm
this was before Selling. I think well, I want to say Selling Sunset just came out with their first season, and I hadn't watched yet, so I didn't really know like who he was until after the fact.
hmm
But he was one, and then I forget who else, but they also had like the cousins, they're called like Cousins Lobster, and they have like food trucks all across the country, and they're
Oh,
from Maine, and they do like lobster rolls and stuff. So she
I
was
see.
learning how to make lobster rolls with them.
See, like Selling Sunset is the only reason I know of this show is because of my girlfriend, because she actually watches that on Netflix.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I sneak a peek at what she's doing and what she's watching, and I'm always amazed of like that show is something else.
Yeah.
It's just so over the top. Like it's just so over the top, and it just, oh, she needs to sell this house. No, you're not gonna be able to sell this house, and she sells that house.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes,
Hmm.
because
And the
you're big
fashion,
into.
like they show up in like
Mhm.
these wacky like evening gown type things with like weird cutouts and stuff to work. And
Yep.
I'm like, ma'am, it is 12:30 on a Tuesday. I'm gonna need you to turn it down. Like,
Because you're really big into like reality TV shows, aren't you?
yes.
So what would you say is your favorite? Is it like, Real Housewives or something
I
like
love
that?
Real Housewives. I'm big into Vanderpump Rules,
Uh,
especially last season with the whole Scandival cheating thing that happened, where
mm-hmm.
one cast member cheated on his girlfriend, who was another cast member. For they were together like 9 years, I want to say.
Okay.
And he cheated on her with another cast member of the show, who was his girlfriend's best friend. And like when the news broke, nobody could believe it. And like that show, obviously, a bit of reality TV is like planned or scripted or what or manipulated,
Yeah.
but that show I want to say is most authentically all friends. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're when they're happy, they're all hanging out when the season's over. If they're fighting, they're genuinely mad at one another when the season's over, and it carries
Mm-hmm.
over into the next one. So it's not like they only hang out when they're filming, like
Yeah.
it's real. So that this scandal, all to say, like it really shook everyone up
Mm-hmm.
from the cast to the fans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been interesting drama. I hear people complaining that this season's a little bit too slow, but I'm like, we can't have something crazy happen every season. Like that's just not good. Like right now, I'm very interested in the fallout of
Mm-hmm.
Scandival and what's going on. And I've met the cast. I went to the premiere for we're on season 11. Yeah, I went to the premiere for season 11. I've met them a couple other times before that. They're
Mm-hmm.
real people, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Most of them are really cool. And yeah, it's a good show to watch. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
honestly, if you're needing a reality TV show that's pure trash, I would put it on. I think you'll get very addicted.
Yeah. See, like I cannot deal with reality TV shows. I'll be honest. I cannot deal with that. Just we have here. Have you ever seen Love Island?
Yes.
So I believe that's originated here in the UK.
Yes.
So I've seen some clips and I'm like, yeah, I cannot deal with you guys. I just cannot. Like I understand the appeal though. Like I understand, hot people being dumb and hot people being
Mhm.
hot and hot people just, parading around and oh, who's this hot person gonna hook up next? See you next time. And I understand the appeal, but I cannot deal with that. But my girlfriend is kind of like she tried to watch one or two episodes and it was too much drama even for her. And I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, Love Island is different because that's a
Mhm.
dating game show.
Yeah.
And that also I used to watch a lot and then I stopped because it did stress me out too.
Hmm.
Um, Especially because it's like, some of it is relatable in the sense where like you're dating someone new and on the show, like someone new comes into the island and the whole point is like they can leave you for them. But in real life, I mean, obviously it's not like you're dating someone and every new person they're gonna be like, am I gonna date them? But there could be jealousy
Yeah.
when you find out your partner has a really a cool person of the opposite sex or, same sex, if that's how you roll at
Hmm.
work that they're really close with. And there might be feelings of jealousy there, or like a childhood friend that they're still really close with, like,
Hmm. Hmm.
oh, are they romantic feelings? So, like, that's stressful. And I feel like Love Island definitely brings up that stress
Hmm.
um, while watching. But the premise of Vanderpump Rules is that they all worked for Lisa Vanderpump. She's a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills. She's got some restaurants over in West Hollywood.
Hmm.
So these people, like season one, I think it was 2013 was when it came out.
Hmm.
They all worked in the restaurant. Like they were broke as all hell. And it was like following these broke, like struggling wannabe actors, models, whatever, work in a restaurant where they're all
Hmm.
really good friends, but there's so much drama. And now 11 years later, like they're, well on their own. Some of them have kids, some of them got divorced, some of them are still married. So it's kind of we watch them grow up, but there's still drama in it. Like, so
Hmm.
the whole Scandival thing, like Tom and Ariana are the couple who split. They own a house together and they're still living in the house together because they're being stubborn on like who should sell,
Yeah.
should we sell, should I buy him out, like type thing. So like that kind of stuff. It's more, I would say there's more depth than Love Island, and I use the
Hmm.
term depth very loosely because how deep can you go with reality TV? But you're more invested in these people's storylines.
Hmm. So, okay, so why reality TV? Because it's like, I've heard you watch quite a lot of it.
Yes.
And so why that? Like, what is that? What made you be like, all right, I'm gonna be really into reality TV shows?
I don't know if there was a defining moment.
Okay.
Like, I started I was in high school, I think. And that was
Hmm.
like when the Real Housewives of Orange County was around. And I think they just put out the Real Housewives of New Jersey. And at the time, I was still living in New York, but like close enough to Jersey where I knew enough, like we'd go to Jersey all the time. So like I knew about
Yeah.
the culture. And I find that the Real Housewives of New Jersey's culture is more similar to mine. Like they're mostly all Italian. Whereas
Hmm.
like the Real Housewives of New York City, I didn't relate to that much because I lived on Staten Island and these are all women who live in like the rich brownstones of Manhattan. Like that's not my
Yeah.
family. Like,
Yeah.
so anyway, I kind of got hooked into that. It was interesting to see people like me as far as the Italian heritage goes on TV
Hmm.
because we're a very different breed. There's not many people who get it. Like there's people I talk to, like my friends from the reality TV internet community who they're like, okay, so in the Italian community, like, do people still refer to their parents as mommy and daddy? And I'm like, yeah, like, we don't call them that, but like, whenever I talk about my parents, like, I don't notice, but like, sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, she spoke to mommy, or like, mommy and daddy said, like, blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm not going to
Hmm.
call my mom and dad like mommy and daddy. It's very weird, but like, it's a cultural thing
Yeah.
because in the Italian culture, like, family is so important.
Hmm.
So there's like
Hmm.
still that like nod of, I guess, respect or like childlike respect. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But anyway, so I got hooked on Orange County and then New York. And I think a part of it was like almost, I always knew I wanted to go to California. Like I'd always say, like when I was 3, I knew I wanted to be in California.
Hmm.
And so seeing like the Real Housewives of Orange County and then eventually the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, like seeing these women live these opulent lives. Same with Laguna Beach, throwing it back when I was in junior high on MTV. Like I think it helped me visualize like the life I wanted,
Hmm.
which like is very different than what I thought it was gonna be, not in a bad way, but like you watch The Hills and they're like in college renting out these like houses in Malibu by the water. And I'm like, it's gonna be me. And it's like, no, honey, you're living in
Yeah.
the valley. You have a studio apartment. Your view is of the hot tub outside. Like, take it down a notch. Let's humble ourselves.
Yeah.
But I think that element of, just they were living the lives I wanted to live.
Hmm.
And obviously that's changed a little bit as I got older. So then I stayed, I came for the visualizing and I stayed for the stories. And
Hmm.
once you get hooked on one, it's kind of hard not to get hooked on the rest.
So is it fair to say it's almost like your happy place, like cozy, blanket?
Yeah.
All
Yeah, in a
right.
way. Yeah.
Okay. And why wrestling? Because obviously you're co-hosting a podcast with Shane about wrestling,
Yeah.
and you know a
So
lot
that
about wrestling.
yeah, that's a little different. I believe it or not, I got into wrestling. Well, okay, let's take it back even further. So the intrigue was always there. Like when I was a kid, my cousin Michael played the video games. I think it was before they were with 2K, or maybe they just started with the 2K video game company. I don't remember.
Hmm.
But when I go over to my cousin Michael's house, it's like, let's play this wrestling video game. And I didn't really know much about it, but I was like, okay. And you pick your character and like you fight with the person.
Yeah.
But when the characters come out, they go through their whole entrance. So like he was always the Rock, so you'd hear like the
Hmm.
if you smell and like see the whole routine. And I was so drawn to China. I was like, this woman is so cool. Like she is strong. She's
Hmm.
showing that like attractive women can be strong and like beat up men. Like this is really cool. And
Hmm.
I was just like so drawn to her and I thought she was the coolest thing. But I never really watched wrestling, but I knew who China was. I knew who The Rock was, Stone Cold, yada, yada, yada. And then go down the line, like 2012, the show Total Divas came out. So that's a reality TV show.
Hmm.
And it was on E and it followed the lives of some of the WWE divas. They were still divas at the time. So
Hmm.
it was the Bella Twins. It was Natty, Eva Marie, JoJo, and I think that was it. And then like some cast members changed as the years went on.
Hmm.
And you really got to see, I mean, it was scripted as all hell. Like those storylines were so scripted. But it was interesting because even though it was scripted, you still got to see the behind the scenes look at like, oh, they're in catering. Oh, like they're really traveling on the road. Like this is a full-time thing. They're not at home all that much. They're on the road.
Yeah.
Um, looking at their training and seeing how much goes into it. And I was really intrigued by that. I was hooked on that show. So then from there, my little brother, little, he's 24, but like he's always the little brother.
Yes.
He got into wrestling because this was 2012. So he was 12 at the time and he had been into it a few years before. So I would see if he had it on in the house, I would watch a little bit. And then if there were some like not family shows, like the TV shows that
Hmm.
were filming, like some of them film for TV, but they're called house shows. So it's like they would just travel, but not film for TV.
Hmm.
So if they were this is when we were living in Jersey. So if they were in Trenton, they had like an arena out there. We would go to those house shows and I found them really enjoyable. Like I have a dance background. And as
Hmm.
much as people want to say wrestling is not ballet, like I want to like cut that, like end people saying that because there are a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Like you have to choreograph in a way so that you don't hurt the other person. And if you're
Hmm.
doing partnering work in ballet, you have to work with the other person who's lifting you up. You don't want to be dead weight when they lift you up. Otherwise, they're going to struggle. Same with wrestling. Like if you're
Hmm.
lifting someone, they have to kind of help you out. So there are some similarities, and I found that interesting. And it's sports entertainment. So they're putting on a show for you. So
Yeah.
I love the whole cutting promos. Like I relate to that, being on the mic. Like you have to have a personality. You could be the greatest wrestler in the world, but if you don't have a personality, like nobody's going to care about you.
Hmm.
Like it's just, they're not going to want to see you. On the other hand, you could not be the strongest in the ring, but if you have a compelling storyline, people want to know more.
Hmm.
So I just found that those two elements really interesting. And then I had a falling out with like a friend who really liked wrestling. So I stopped watching for a while, but I got back into it last year when I was watching the Miz's reality show. And I was like, all right, if I care that much about these people, why don't I just like put on Raw and see if I like it? And then I started watching every single week.
Hmm.
Like every week I binge watched the whole year up until the present point, like all the PLEs they call them now. They were pay-per-views. I have Peacock, so I get them all. Watched all of them. And then once I was done with Raw, I watched SmackDown. And then I was like, I kind of need something else to get my fill. Like I get Raw and SmackDown weekly. And my little brother watches AEW. So I was like, all right, let me watch AEW. And it took me a little bit more to get into it just because AEW is for like real wrestling fans that just appreciate the craft and like the history, which
Hmm.
now I can say that's where I'm at. But when I first started watching that, I wasn't all the way there. I think watching more of AEW got me to that point. But I was listening. I love podcasts. Like once I'm into something or someone, I need to listen to all the podcasts about them. You know,
Hmm.
Danny Elfman, I need to listen to every interview he's done. Darby Allin, I need to listen to every interview he's done because this person, this sport, this whatever is so intriguing that I want to learn everything about them or it.
Yeah.
So I started listening to the podcast AEW Unrestricted, where they would interview their wrestlers.
Hmm.
And then I got to learn a little bit more about them. They also did a show called AEW All Access, and that was kind of like a Total Diva style reality show.
Hmm.
So I became more invested in the people. And then I learned that AEW has a community called Heels. So it's kind of a play on heel in wrestling as a villain. The good
Hmm.
guys are called baby faces. But Heels, AEW Heels, is a women's online community. So it's like a double play on heels. Like we wear heels. Some of us do, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so you pay, it's $50 for the year, and you get access to this really cool online community. We have like message boards. You could check in with everyone, like DM people.
Hmm.
And then once a month, they have a Zoom call and they invite some of the wrestlers on the Zoom call. So like for the first half, it'll be like the wrestler and you can send in your questions and they do a Q&A. And then the second half of the call is like they spotlight some of the heels. So like I got spotlighted one call and they ask you a couple questions. You get to
Hmm.
say hi to everyone, you know, meet people behind the screen that like normally you're just texting or talking to.
Hmm.
And then they do in-person meetups. So when I went to Full Gear here in LA, we had a heels meetup. And Aubrey Edwards, who's the ref, she helps run it. She was there. Amanda Huber is in charge of community outreach. She is the widow of John Huber. She also heads heels. And then Dasha Gonzalez, who's a ring announcer. And those three, you know, when you think of like people who run groups that are like on TV or whatever, your mind right away goes to like, how involved are they really with this? You know, are they
Yeah.
just the face? But I have to say, Aubrey, Amanda, and Dasha do an incredible job. Like their whole heart and soul is in this group, and they are actively taking the time to get to know us on the message boards and in the events. And like they're just as part of the group as we are. And
Hmm.
that's a really welcoming thing because we're all bonded over our love of wrestling. And the community, the wrestling community, there aren't a lot of females who like wrestling. There just aren't.
Hmm.
So to be with a bunch of women and women identifying people, all bonding over this common love of wrestling. Like it's just an experience like no other. So that too long didn't read. That also just furthered my love of wrestling.
That sounds awesome. That sounds
Yeah.
all right. Two last questions about this. So, have you ever wanted to, or would you ever want to do it like, for real? Like, would you, if you ever, been offered, hey, Diana, you can go to a ring, you can be on WWE. Would it be WWE for you, or would it be something? I don't know. I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
know.
I go back and forth. So WWE is very like movie, like stylized. Like I
Yeah.
like to say they're big production, and AEW is kind of more real. Not
Hmm.
that WWE is fake, but like they just kind of let people go with their personality and like
Yeah.
build off that instead of being scripted. But I would be open to either, honestly.
Hmm.
Yeah. So to answer your question, which might be a surprise to my parents, like, yes, I would. I don't know. No, I don't want to say I don't know how good I would be because I do have dancing experience. I don't think I would be flipping off the top rope, but
Hmm.
like, I'm sure I could get some of the basics down and I have good mic skills. Like I'm sure I could tear someone apart on a promo, like one, two, three.
Yes.
Maybe like a manager would probably be a more ideal role for me.
Hmm.
Um, because managers they can slap people around every now and then and they could do all the mic work without having to do the rest of the heavy lifting, so to speak.
Hmm.
So I feel like that might be a role I slide easier into, but like I would so be interested in getting in a ring. Like I hear it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure with the right training I could catch on and like they could do something with me.
You, 100, like I can imagine you there, to be honest. Like you do have the personality, you have the, as you said, you have the mic skills, you have all of that. So I can imagine you being there like easily. And
Thank you.
and here comes my second question. So if you thought about this, have you ever thought about what would your wrestling name be?
Yeah. Okay. So it's so funny. I love the movie House of a Thousand Corpses.
Nice.
Yeah. And the daughter's name is Baby Firefly. So I was like, baby would be kind of fun because like that's not a name you hear every day.
Hmm.
And then I was like, what's a witchy last name? I'm like,
Hmm.
this is what I do in my spare time, people. I was like, what's a witchy last name? And like I went on Reddit and like someone was like Blackwood. And I'm like, Baby Blackwood. Like that's got star power. So,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like me, like it's kind of gothy, but still cute and like
So
childlike
baby
and
baby Blackwood.
yeah,
BB.
yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Mm. See, that's the media personality coming through. That's like, you're already thinking a few steps ahead. It's like, yeah, BB, easy to remember,
Yeah,
just nice.
yes, thank you.
Well,
I
with
think
that,
so.
no, again, I can imagine it. I don't even, and I'm saying that as a person who doesn't watch wrestling and has no idea about that world. So I'm learning a lot from your guys' podcast,
Awesome.
and it's just funny. And you definitely bring so much personality to that podcast.
Oh, thank you.
Like just, you two, Shane, Shane and yourself are the reasons I listen to it because, you have such a great chemistry. And you
Yeah,
have such a
yeah.
great, like, like back and forth. And you referencing SpongeBob is just always makes me laugh. It just,
Yes. Al- Always with the SpongeBob reference. Like the world could be ending and people will be like, what does everyone bring to this table? We need to work together. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I have the SpongeBob quotes. I will be the levity and the humor. I can't really help you out much otherwise.
I bring, like the scene from the Lord of the Rings. You can have my sword, you can have my axe, and then there's gonna be Diana. You can have my SpongeBob knowledge.
Yes, exactly.
I get it. I get it. Well, with that, we can move to the this or that game, which I'll give you
Okay.
two options, and you tell me which one would you prefer.
Okay.
So, big party or small gatherings?
Okay, I feel like now that I'm over 30, I'm gonna go with small gathering. I used
Mm-hmm.
to be such a big party girl.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no, I should rephrase that. I didn't go party a lot. I used to prefer bigger parties. Like my sweet 16 was nuts. I had like 100 something people.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And I used to want like a big wedding in Disney. And now like I've gotten older, I kind of value my circle more. And I notice crowds kind of overstimulate me and I get a little freaked out. So now that like I'm like one day, God willing, I get married, like we're getting married in Vegas and like there will be 30 people max. Cause
Yeah.
I just think it's like kind of quality over quantity, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I totally get it. All right. TV shows or movies?
I'm gonna say TV show. I do love movies, but I'm
Mhm.
just more inclined, like, if I'm doing something around the house, to pull up a TV show.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, do you have any like, okay, let's known, like narrative wise, not like real, reality TV shows. Do you have like narrative TV shows you watched 100 times you would put on because you know them so well whilst you're cleaning house or go about your day?
Yeah, no, it really is honestly like the reality TV shows. I'm
Hmm.
trying to think of other sitcom. Oh, Superstore. That was a good
That's a
sitcom.
great one.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of underseen still. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of fallen through the cracks of Netflix, and America Ferrera on that show, she just rules.
So good. And it
Yeah.
reminds me of my family because that show was still on before I moved out here.
Hmm.
I think once I moved out here, they wrapped the show.
Yeah.
Um, but I used to come home from work. I had like an hour commute, and I don't remember what night it was on, or like my mom would just have a DVR, like we'd watch it together.
Hmm.
So like it was very comforting. I finished the rest of it during the pandemic. So that was kind of comforting because it made me think of like watching it with my mom in our living room in our house. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah.
Nice, nice.
Mhm.
Well, I think I know the answer to the next one since you're holding a coffee in your hand, but I'll ask it. Tea or coffee?
Okay. Wait, what was the question?
Tea or coffee?
Oh, tea or coffee? Coffee. I
So what
do
is
like
your
tea though.
All right.
But
What is your order? Like because you have a Starbucks cup in your hand. So
yeah.
what would be your order?
So right now I'm kind of on a hot coffee kick, which is like funny because when I lived in New York and New Jersey in the colder states, like it could have been like 20 degrees out and I would be drinking iced coffee. And now here it could be 90 degrees out and I want hot coffee. Um, but it's usually a latte of some sort, with soy milk because
Hmm.
real dairy bothers me. That's what happens when you get old, folks. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, I like the blonde espresso a lot. So probably like a
Same.
blonde espresso a lot. Yeah. Like I like regular espresso, but I think that something about that blonde roast has like a nice flavor to it.
Hmm. I didn't like Starbucks for the longest time. I am into
Mhm.
my specialty coffees at home, so I still, but every once in a while when my girlfriend, was like, "Oh, I'm in the mood for Starbucks," I at least know I can drink the blonde roast because
Yeah.
yeah, there's something about it like it's kind of more pleasant to me, and she absolutely hates it. So she's definitely, more on a like a regular side of the normal
Yes.
roast. Money or free time?
Oh, that's a good question.
Hmm.
I hate to say I would probably go with money just because if you have free time, but you don't have, at least living in LA, if
Yeah,
you have free time and you don't have money, like you can't do anything. Like
yeah.
you're sitting at home, you can go for a walk and stuff, you can go for a hike or you can craft or whatever. But like when everyone else is spending their money on dinners and stuff, like I get major FOMO.
Hmm.
So I'd rather be able to have money and then be able to have fun in whatever little free time I have.
That's fair. And also,
Yeah,
money can technically buy you free time. If you have
that's
enough of
fair.
money, you can have a lot of like, assistants that,
Yeah,
they do your shopping, stuff like that. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, makes sense. Honesty or other people's feelings.
I'm always an honesty girl
Hmm.
because I mean, if you're not honest in the long run, you're still hurting other people's feelings, or you're not keeping other people's feelings in
Hmm.
mind if you're
Hmm.
not being honest.
Hmm.
So someone once told me clear is kind. And I just think, yeah, honesty.
Clear is kind. I never heard
Yeah,
that, but I like it.
yeah,
Clear is, I'll remember that.
yeah.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Yeah, yeah. Based on our previous conversation, I was like, do I need to? But you know what? Yeah. No, summer, same for me. Just like I don't mind winter, but yeah, summer. There's something about summer. Well, we don't really have summers here, to be honest, in the UK. So,
Yeah.
we have like 3 weeks, and it's great. Everything
Hmm.
else is just like it's kind of spring. It's kind of maybe spring, and
Yeah.
then a lot of rain. Yeah.
Yes.
Ninjas or pirates?
Pirates, because I
Oh,
like the Pirates of the Caribbean.
okay. You don't get like seasick?
I do get seasick,
Oh
but
shit.
you know, oh my God, I was that girl on a cruise one time that like got sick in the dining room on the first day. And like, I think I was like, I passed out. I went to get up to go to my room. And I remember just like taking a couple steps and like everything goes black. I fall down, but I hear my mom like just yelling. I don't know what she yelled, but I heard her yelling and she reached into someone's like champagne bucket to get ice to put it
Mhm.
over my head. And I hear someone else go, like, I'm a doctor. And like, as I'm like unconscious, I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. So I became like seasick girl on the cruise. And throughout the week, everyone was asking me how I was feeling, which is nice.
But you'll get noticed when you do something like that, for the rest of the cruise or the rest of the like holiday, you'll get noticed and you'll be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, you're that person who did this. How are you feeling right now? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
I managed to do something similar when I went to Croatia, like a long, long time ago, and I managed to break my head open on a rock. So yeah,
Oh my God.
it was fun. It was just so fun. And it was even funnier that the adults, because back then I was like 12, so it was like a kid camp pretty much. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
you go CSE, you go just, and the adults, they were like they had some nurses there, but it was so severe, their needles were not thick enough for my like for my skin, so they had to drive me like 40 kilometers, which is like 25-ish miles to the nearest hospital.
Oh
So
my
I'm just
God.
sitting in a car just trying not to bleed all over the car. Yeah, like then they're like with a broken English slash Croatian, like try to talk to this like a massive doctor, just yeah, that's gonna be fine. Ugh.
Oh my God.
It was, but see, here's the point. The point is, for the rest of the trip, I was like, "Hey, you're the guy who just broke his head open. How are you doing? How are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, pretty good, pretty good." Just like,
I'm
oh
glad you made it back on the boat.
no, like yeah, no, it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, last question: free will or destiny?
Ah, I mean, I guess I guess destiny because I just have faith that like everything that's planned for us is for
Hmm.
our highest good in some way. Um,
Oh,
which is
okay.
funny saying that out loud because I always talk to my coach and I'm like, the
Hmm.
universe hates me, or like I was jinxed. So like
Hmm.
hearing that kind of subconscious thought that like no, everything is for our highest good is kind of funny and like affirming to me that like, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, you do believe that. So, and we do all have free will, right? But
Yeah.
I just feel like our free will bring us to our destiny.
So kind of half and half then.
Yeah.
All right, okay. Because I feel like you're the first person I've had on this show that chose destiny. Everybody else was like, probably free will, probably free will. And then
Yeah.
you're the first person like a destiny. I'm like, oh, damn. Finally,
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah, because I'm just a big girl that's like a big girl, a big thinker, believer in whatever's meant to be is gonna happen. But like we don't know our destiny. We pick our path, and that's what's meant to be.
So do you therefore, can I ask, do you therefore
Mhm.
think you're because in that logic, you're and both all of us are just puppets playing their roles. Because no matter what you do, no matter what I do, we would eventually get where we are meant to, be, right? So
Yeah,
by
I don't
that,
know if it's puppets.
well, or
It's
actors playing our roles, right?
yeah,
But
I don't know. I just still think it's just like we don't know what our role is.
hmm
So
hmm
it's kind of more of just like a beautiful thing that it's like our
okay,
decisions lead us to where we're meant to be.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
interesting.
Or even if
I
we try to reroute,
hmm
like we still end up where we need to go,
hmm
in some way. Or if,
hmm
you think you really wanted something, right? Like for the
hmm
longest time, I'm like, I want to be a host. I want to be a host. And then I still am a host, but I'm kind of learning, I'm like, that's not, I don't feel fulfilled. So whatever I'm supposed to do,
hmm
like I on that path to being a host that I took my free will to get to, like I'm gonna find what I was meant to do.
hmm hmm Fascinating. Okay, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And do you have any controversial opinions or hot takes you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm sorry, people.
All the Swifties will be coming for you. Just so how
Yeah.
come? What did she do to you?
So this is going back years ago. And I
Hmm.
know now Joe Jonas has gotten in hot water again with Sophie Turner. So I'm sure
Yes.
this doesn't hold up.
Hmm.
But he was dating Taylor Swift and they broke up.
Hmm.
And it was, and I never had an opinion of her before this. Like, I was like, okay, her music's fine. Like, I don't love or hate it.
Mhm.
But she went on every talk show and was like, he broke up with me in a 27-second phone call. And then she went on
Mhm.
another show, was like, he broke up with me in a 17-second phone call. And she kind of just made it everyone's problem, like
Mhm.
spilling what Joe Jonas did, which, like, yeah, I'm sure he did do it over the phone. And
Mhm.
he was a teenager at the time. And like, that's a shitty thing for a guy to do. But like, teenage guys act like that, you know?
Mhm.
And just for her to like promote it, and it was just so happened the week her second album or whatever was coming out. Like
Mhm.
me being the straight shooter New Yorker I'm like, the math ain't mathing here. Like
Yeah.
someone's playing victim.
Mhm.
And so that was always in the back of my mind. And then seeing what happened with the Kanye thing. And then
Mhm.
her just being like, oh yeah, he used me and blah blah blah. And then Kim Kardashian had the phone call where it was like she gave him permission.
Mhm.
And just like, I don't know, the math doesn't math with her. She doesn't seem very genuine in my eyes. She's a smart businesswoman. I will give her that. But I feel like the whole country got sprayed with some mist that like everyone loves her, the whole world even. And I
Mhm.
was just absent that day.
Mhm.
Like, think about it with the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know how big in the UK people talked about the Super Bowl because that is a very American thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
But she was dating one of the players, I don't know football, one
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
players on the Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelsey. She would go to all his games and the camera would be like on her. And people would be like, I can't believe people are so mad that she's just supporting her boyfriend. And we're like, no, no, no. We are not mad. She is supporting her boyfriend. Please,
Mhm.
by all means, go to the games. But the fact that now like an airline named their food menu after Taylor Swift, like if you were flying into whatever city the Super Bowl was in,
Mhm.
like she has nothing, she's not playing. She has
Yeah.
nothing to do with the game. She is there supporting her boyfriend. So if it truly was just a woman supporting her boyfriend, we would not be naming airline food menus after her.
Mhm.
We would not be wearing shirts that say "Go Taylor's boyfriend." We
Mhm.
would not be making a big deal about this woman who has never played football a day in her life on the biggest football day of the year. So that's where
Mhm.
I get aggravated. And also, I feel like a lot of her fans, this is not every fan, because like one of my best friends is a huge Taylor Swift fan, and we don't argue, we just don't. But I feel like there's hive mind. So it's like if Taylor says something, everyone's got to attack the one person or everyone's got to think that way. And there's lack
Yeah.
of free thinking for themselves. And I just don't drive with that.
Yeah. No, quite a few interesting points you've raised there. I'll say, like, I I'm not a her fan by any
Mhm.
means. I think she gets shit on a bit too much, and
Yeah.
I feel like what you mentioned, like with like the airline food, I have not heard of that to be honest. So that's
Yeah.
the news to me. However, I don't. Is it her fault? Because like, here's my thing, right? She is one of the biggest, if not the biggest celebrity right now in the world. Like her, maybe Beyonce, and that's like they're like bigger than anybody pretty much. Like what, like every time she releases an album or goes on a tour, it's madness. It's
Mhm.
almost like the Beatles have returned, but in a social media age where it's something where and everybody is like tackles that on. So like and everybody wants to be associated with her name because her name sells. So
Right.
even like I've seen some funny clips of TVs like, oh, now we welcome our Swifties because plenty of you were watching NFL for the first time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like, and this is gonna be, and as you say, and there's gonna be some place somewhere people will be like, this is Taylor's fault, and I'm like, is it? Like,
Well, I mean, if she did it, if she wasn't a singer and she was just a normal office worker in Pennsylvania, like none of this would happen. So why not? Well, like even though she might not directly be telling, which I don't think
mhm,
she is, she's not directly telling the airlines like name your food
yeah,
menu after me. We're
mhm,
not doing that for any other celebrity attending the Super Bowl. If
mhm,
you look at like when tons of celebrities attend sporting events on the daily, you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
and even Patrick Mahomes' wife, Brittany, like there's like a lot of media buzz around her, but
mhm,
we're not all like, oh, let's name the champagne wine after Brittany Mahomes. Like, it's just there's a really weird, like, she somehow, even though it's not directly her fault, like, because
mhm,
she's this big celebrity, excuse me, she's this big celebrity, like, there's a weird thing where people just need to make it about her
yeah,
and no other celebrity. Like, when Beyonce has stuff named after her, or like, I don't, it all directly has to do with her.
yeah,
Like, it has to do with her album, the
Hmm.
Renaissance
Hmm.
album. It has to do with her clothing line. It has to do with her kids. It has to do with
Hmm.
Lemonade. Taylor Swift is not playing football. She is not out on the field. She does not wear a Kansas City Chief uniform.
Yeah.
She sits and watches her boyfriend as she should, but
Hmm.
somehow we're acting as if she's the lone player on the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Again, like I never, I don't really follow NFL, so I don't know if that coverage was like that. I remember
Yeah.
seeing people complaining, like, oh, camera cuts too much to Taylor Swift. Then somebody actually did the math, and out of like 3 hours, it cut to her in like 42 seconds or something. So it was
Well,
like,
yeah. So again, it's not the camera math of 42
mhm,
seconds. It's like, why do we need to report on it? And then people will be like, oh, well, if you don't like it, don't stop looking at posts. Like, this is what gets
yeah,
me about the fans. I feel like they
yeah,
get in the mail every week, like a
mhm,
set of predetermined comebacks to
mhm,
say to people, because then it's like, well, if you don't like it, stop looking at pages with stories of her because that's how the algorithm works. And I'm like, sweetie, no, that's not how the algorithm works because I follow TMZ. So
mhm,
if TMZ posts about Taylor Swift, if TMZ posts about Joe Biden, if TMZ posts about Kim Kardashian, it's going to show up in my feed. And I'm
yeah,
not going to stop following TMZ because they do post stuff that I am interested in.
mhm,
I'm just
mhm,
not interested in Taylor Swift, and that happens to be every other story they're reporting on.
yeah,
So that's what I get annoyed. Like, no, go be on camera, support your boyfriend. So she's not directly doing anything wrong, but it's just this weird obsession with her
mhm,
that's borderline stalkery that like that's what pisses me off. And she just doesn't seem genuine. So it just like it's the combination of all that that
okay,
rubs me the wrong way. And people, you know what, hate on me. I'm a real person. You can hate on me. Like, I don't
mhm,
care. That's my belief and I'm sticking to it. She's making her money, so she's laughing at me all the way to the bank. Like,
mhm,
it's fine.
mhm, mhm. I'm pretty sure, look, I'm exactly as you said, I'm pretty sure Taylor doesn't care what either of us has to
Yeah.
say. Because
Yeah.
again, she's laughing all the way to her bank. She's got millions and millions of loyal followers. And as you touched upon that, the cult, hive mind almost, where
Yeah.
it is a bit scary. But again, it's not just her. It's like I still remember. Well, not even remember. They still are around. One Direction fans.
Yeah.
Talk about hive mind. Talk about being obsessive over five boys. Now
Mm-hmm.
now five men, but back then they were teenage boys. Oh, that like those are some scary people because if you piss them off, they'll go through the entire internet to dig up every single thing you've ever said wrong or could be
Yeah.
interpreted wrong. And I'm like, holy shit, that's just insane. And
Yeah.
I think Taylor definitely, because she's as big as she is, definitely there's like a percentage of that fandom that's like a bit too intense.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, well, she might not be doing anything directly wrong.
Mhm,
It's just like, why are people so like crazy about this person who
mhm,
I'm sure she appreciates them, but like
mhm.
they don't, she doesn't know her fans from Adam in real life? So it's
Yeah.
like they're going through all these lengths to like crucify other people in the name of Taylor Swift who
Mhm,
doesn't know two things about them. Like, it's just not healthy. Like, I'm
mhm.
a huge Billie Eilish fan. I
Okay.
love her. I will buy anything she puts out. She could make a macaroni necklace and I would buy it. And like act like I haven't made one in preschool. You know what I mean? But like if she were to do something wrong or like someone were to have an opinion, I'm not gonna like crucify someone for
Mhm,
it.
mhm.
Like, and I'm gonna hold her accountable. Like, that's just part of being a fan is holding those you are a fan of accountable when they mess up because they're
Yeah.
humans too.
Mhm,
Everyone gets to mess up, but it's how you learn from your mistakes. And I just feel like Taylor gets a pass.
mhm. Oh, trust me, she doesn't get bad. I would say this for every hardcore fan and for
Hmm.
every like intense fan of Taylor, there's as much, if not even bigger, group of people like yourself, that are, like tracking every single thing she does wrong and
Well, she gets a
immediately.
pass from her
No,
fans,
yeah,
you
yeah, like
know?
yeah, no, yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Is there any other controversial opinion, or you think it's controversial you were willing to share, or you fine with just Taylor?
I think I'm fine with that. I can't really
All right.
think of anything else that's like weird. I don't like it when people touch the tips of their noses, but that's not controversial. It's just like a
Mhm.
weird thing I have.
Okay. no argument there. I
Yeah.
cannot, I cannot, I cannot really talk about that because
Yeah.
that's just a very specific thing.
Yeah. It freaks me out. So,
Okay. Okay, with that, then we can move to the flex part of the podcast where
okay.
we get to talk about some movies. So, Diana, what is the last new movie you would rate 5 out of 5? And for this purpose, purpose of this podcast, anything 2020 onward.
The last one I did was the Iron Claw.
Of well, wrestling wrestling
Yeah.
movie. What a surprise. Tell me
Yeah.
about it.
And that that movie was done so well because,
Hmm.
it's the Von Erich family. They are a real family that
Hmm.
unfortunately was affected by so much tragedy. In fact, even more tragedy than they put in
Hmm.
the movie because another brother passed away, but they didn't put him in the movie and they kind of blended his story with Michael's.
Hmm.
Um, and it's hard to take just a family's real life story that's filled with so much tragedy
Hmm.
and put it in a movie that's meant to entertain us and not do it in a tacky way, not do it in a way that's going to overly depress everyone. And it was so well done. The story flowed. The wrestling, like Zac Efron,
Hmm.
he got into like super ring shape. Like honestly, like WWE sometimes invites celebrities to wrestle.
Hmm.
Like Zac Efron is ready.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they want to have him come in Mania or something, like he is so ready. Um, Jeremy Allen White was awesome. It was just a really great cast.
Hmm.
The story flowed. You held on to everyone's word. And then just they really dealt with the topic of death and suicide so beautifully and handled it in the most delicate way
Hmm.
while still being able to move the audience. And that's just not an easy thing to do. And I won't give it like the exact thing away, but they did take a risk at the end with just a decision they made with one of the brothers and how they presented it. And I think it was a huge risk to take, but it succeeded. It wasn't cheesy.
Hmm.
It wasn't something that was like, oh, why'd they do this? I was a huge fan of it. The only thing that bothered me was the guy who played Ric Flair was not like Ric Flair at all. Like, I don't, are you familiar with Ric Flair?
Not at all.
Okay, well, you need to like YouTube him. So he's still around. He's 75 and he's now with AEW, but like
Hmm.
he was a big wrestler like in the 80s and he would go, woo, and like everything was like, we're styling and profiling and Rolex watches and this suit costs blah, blah, blah. And he's like high energy in your face. And the guy who played him was like not high energy.
Yeah.
And he tried to argue that, like, oh, I was trying to give a different take on Ric Flair. And it's like, dude, but like Ric Flair is one of the most like cartoony, like stereotypy wrestlers. Like you kind of have to play him up. So every wrestling fan has like beef with who they picked to play Ric Flair, and it's kind of a joke in the wrestling community right now. But other than
Nice.
that, like 10 out of 10, no notes.
Okay. Like I've heard so many things about that movie from you, from Shane, from other
Yeah.
people, from Sith Pop, because yeah, they all like pretty much unanimously love it.
Hmm.
Like I still need to get around to it, but I heard like exactly what you said. What is displayed in that movie, what happens to this one family, they even put everything that's happened to that family or has happened to the family in real life because apparently
Yeah.
it's much more shit that happened to them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my fucking God. Because yeah,
Yeah.
the trailer I saw did not do the movie justice. It just seemed
No.
like a straightforward, like, oh, we've told you the entire story in this 2-minute trailer. So I'm like, why should I watch the movie? And then I've heard people tell me, yeah, this is much more than a trailer. I was like, all right.
Yes.
And then seen all the like rave reviews from people like yourself, who
Hmm.
know wrestling. And I'm like, I need to check it out because that seems awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Great movie.
no, that's again, cannot wait to check it out. So with that, what would be the last teen movie you rate 5 out of 5? And again, that's anything between 2003 and 2019.
I think, hold on, let me double check Letterbox, but I
Of
think
course.
Jennifer's Body falls into that
Yes, it
category.
does.
Okay, cool. Yes, Jennifer's Body. And it was such a like underrated movie because the
Hmm.
marketing for that movie, and I wrote an article about this for Scribe magazine, but
Hmm.
the the marketing for that movie did them so dirty because they decided to play on Megan Fox's sexuality
Yes.
and market it as like, oh, Megan Fox is this hot little thing, which like God bless, she is, but that's not what the movie's about.
Hmm.
The movie has such feminist undertones and a great story about like friendship and like it hits up all like the teen jealousy and all that. And there's just so many messages about like how women are treated and I don't know, it was just the marketing kind of shot itself in the foot, so it was a
Yeah.
flop, but it's
Yeah.
become such a great cult movie.
Hmm.
Is the acting Oscar worthy? No.
Hmm.
But the writing is great. There's a lot of like one-liners in there. It's such a nostalgic movie that like it really captures that like Mean Girls era, like 2000s,
Yeah.
fashion and everything. And the themes, they're really worth exploring. So I love
Yeah.
Jennifer's Body.
It's funny you bring this up because yeah, it seems to have kind of like almost a renaissance in the last couple of
Yes.
years where people seem to have appreciated it more. And actually, one of my best friends here, I talked to her a lot of times about movies, and she often mentions how that movie got short shrifted because it's such a
Hmm.
great movie. So I feel like next Halloween, this Halloween, I definitely need to rewatch it because yeah, at, I seen it when it came out and I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's okay. It's not a great movie, but it's okay. Like it's not bad.
Yeah.
So I need to rewatch it now, like 10 plus years later and see how that holds
Yes.
up. Because yeah,
Because it
many
was
people.
very ahead of its time in
Yeah.
its feminist undertones. And also there's a lot of LGBTQIA plus themes in there,
Yeah.
which I don't remember what year. What was it? 2003, 2006? I don't
9,
remember. Okay,
2009.
2009. I was like one
Mhm.
of those multiples of three.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was 17 at the time. Like people weren't, even though we were progressing as as a country, as a world, like it's still, I don't even think gay marriage wasn't legal
Nope.
then. Feminism, even though like women could vote and whatever, like it's still, we weren't as accepted in society and we still got a long way to go, especially with our current
Mhm.
administration, but that's another topic for another day. But we've progressed a lot further and we've learned new things as a world that I think you watching it under the lens of 2024 might make you appreciate it a little bit more.
I honestly, that's one of those movies I am looking forward to rewatching just with like everything I've heard about it
Yeah.
since, and especially from people like yourselves, like,
Yeah.
can't wait. So what is the last adult quote unquote movies you would rate 5 out of 5? And this is anything in between 2002 and 1975.
I did Scream, the original
Nice.
Scream.
Okay.
That movie was just kind of the birth
Hmm.
of a new genre of horror in a way. Like, because we have, horror and comedy always went hand in hand, but this was like the first time that it almost felt like it was in on the joke.
Yeah.
And it made fun of horror movies while still putting on an amazing horror movie. Wes Craven was brilliant. It launched like a whole franchise
Yep.
and they're still going they were going strong until like the whole cast of Scream 7 has gone up in flames and we don't know
Yes.
what's going on with that. But yeah, no, like Scream 6 and Scream 5, there were a lot of callbacks. Scream 4 actually was like a whole callback to the original. So like this
Hmm.
one movie with an amazing iconic cast,
Hmm.
oh my God, why am I Stu Macher, what the hell is his name? And I'm blanking. Matthew Lillard. I don't know
Yes.
why I forgot about him. He's done like brilliant. He slays in that role. Like he's just a
Hmm.
goofy guy.
Hmm.
Drew Barrymore only being in the first 2 minutes of the film, and she was like
Yep.
marketed as like the star, and it was like jokes on us.
Hmm.
Obviously, oh my God, Neve Campbell, Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox, of course.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
then David Arquette, like just brilliant cast, great
Hmm.
chemistry, and they've become such beloved cast members of years to come. When you listen to Franchise Paradiso, there was, I think it was, I forgot which ones. I was on like locations, I think best horror locations and best sidekick, I think it was. And I
Hmm.
was pulling for like Scream, the whole,
Yes.
like everything related to Scream the whole entire time. And it's just such an iconic movie in pop culture, and it still is a very big part of horror today. Like it really changed the genre for years to come.
And it brought back slashers because
It did.
it brought back like the entire genre because it was dead, for
Yes.
no pun intended. It was like genuinely every slasher was kind of flop, and then only Wes Craven came back, you know rejuvenized the genre, and then we got like, I Know What You Did Last Summer,
Yes.
all of these like, Scream knockoffs, and of course, Scary Movie. Scary Movie is the
Yes.
like, and the opening scene partying with like, instead of Drew Barrymore, we have Carmen Electra, and it's
Yeah.
just cinema. It's
Yeah. And they truly
always,
have mastered the cold open. Like
yep.
every cold open is like a huge talking point of every Scream movie.
No, yeah, that's a great pick. And what is the last old movie you would rate 5 out of 5? So none anything older than 1974.
So I struggled with this one.
Okay.
Because I was like, oh, when was Rocky Horror Picture Show? But that was 75. So I was like, damn, I missed it by a year. So I guess it's like, and I'm sure I've watched. Well, no, wait. Now that I'm thinking,
Hmm.
what year was Mary Poppins?
64, I believe.
Okay, yeah, let's go with Mary Poppins because that was my favorite movie as a
Oh,
kid. Um,
nice.
my mom said I would watch that like every day. She actually made like a my flower girl dress for my cousin's wedding. Like she
Hmm.
made it into a Mary Poppins costume.
Yeah.
She like attached like little red bows to it and she made me the hat and the parasol and I would wear that every single day.
Hmm.
Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke, iconic. You
Hmm.
know, I love that they mix the like live action with the animation
Hmm.
and it's just like a whimsical world, you know, every kid can relate to. Like you're
Hmm.
stuck and you're hoping for something better and you're bored and whatever and this nanny comes in and like, you know, she's like really like everything's got to be perfect and
Yeah.
like and then you get taken away to this world and the carousel, oh my god, that carousel horse I actually have in my room in Jersey. I have a Lennox figure of Mary Poppins on the little carousel horse. So it's
Nice.
just like a really special movie to me because
Hmm.
that's what I was obsessed with. The music, like
Yeah. Yeah.
if you are a Disney fan, you know Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, you know Jolly Holiday, just Let's Go Fly a Kite, like the dancing in that movie. It's a true production that's so representative of the time it was made, and it's just
Hmm.
you could watch it now and just feel nostalgic.
Hmm. Did you watch the sequel, Mary Poppins Returns?
Was that the one with Emily Blunt?
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I
Did
liked
you
it.
like that? Okay, okay.
I liked it. I mean, obviously nothing compares to the original.
Of
Let's be
course.
real. But with what they did a good job.
Hmm. I need to rewatch the original because I don't have the attachment you have to it. I've
Yeah.
only watched this for the first time, I want to say like 6 years ago. So when I was
Okay.
quite, I was like 25-ish. And I was like, this is fine. Quite like long, quite long, quite
It
long.
is.
And like, so I want to rewatch it and watch the sequel because I still haven't seen it. But I've also
Yeah.
seen. Did you see them? What is the movie with Emma Thompson playing the creator of Mary Poppins?
Was
Uh,
it Mr. Banks?
yes, yes,
Yes, that was
Miss
good.
Saving Mr. Banks. Yes,
Yes.
and I
Yeah, that
and
was really good with Tom Hanks as Walt Disney.
yes, yeah,
Yeah, I enjoyed that because it also
me
gave you
too.
like a behind the scenes look at the making of it, which like we didn't have. Well, I didn't have as a kid, and I'm sure they didn't really have much of all like back then.
Yep.
Um, and it had I think they did like the songwriters because they did a lot of stuff for not only Disney movies but like the Disney theme parks too. I think
Hmm.
they wrote
Hmm.
Grim Grinning Ghost. I think they wrote. They did a couple of songs for like the rides that Walt had a
Yeah,
hand in.
yeah.
And there's just something about that like is also special to me because I grew up going to Disney World. Now
Hmm.
I live out here. I go to Disneyland a lot, and
Hmm.
you know I grew up watching the movie, so it's also special. But I can see it's gonna be hard for you to like really appreciate it in the way of watching it through a kid's eyes because there's something different. Like when I was
Yep.
little, I was like going outside because my mom would not let me open the umbrella in the house. That's bad luck. But I was
Oh.
going outside and I was like trying to hold my hand. I'm like, why am I not flying right now? I
Mm,
have my parasol in my hand. It's open. I should be flying like Mary Poppins
yeah.
and sliding down the banister, like just walking into the world. The animation and the penguins are dancing with you. Like as a kid, obviously the lines of what's real and what's just made for film are so blurred. And as an adult,
Yep.
you're not going to have that same experience. Like you'll have a different appreciation for
Hmm.
it,
Hmm.
but I wish I could walk you through it through a child's eyes because it's just that much better.
I was just gonna say the way you're describing it, I wish I could watch it with you because I feel
Yeah.
it'll be such a blast. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I need somebody who grew up on it, like whilst I'm watching it for a second time, that
Yeah.
make me appreciate it much more. D-
Yes.
Have you
That,
tried
oh
to?
my God. Even so they have in Disneyland, the
Mhm,
characters are able to walk around a little bit more freely, whereas
mhm,
in Florida, it's kind of more controlled where you wait in line to see them.
yeah.
So when it was before I moved out here, but I was on vacation in LA for my birthday. We went to Disneyland and someone dressed up as Bert, Dick Van Dyke's character, was walking around and I like
Mhm,
almost got tears in my eyes because I thought of me as a little kid. I would argue the song "It's a Jolly Holiday." She says "with you, comma Bert," but in my head I was like, his name is Hubert, and my
mhm.
mom's like, no, she's saying "with you, Bert," and I'm like, no, 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 his name is Hubert. So like my whole family, the whole joke is like, that's Hubert.
Yeah, nice. Have you, as a kid, so since you've been, like obviously fan of this movie ever since you were a kid, have you tried to like, talk in English accent because of this
Oh
movie?
yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Nice. Because I've heard stories of people, of kids nowadays, because obviously everything's so connected in America, growing up watching Peppa Pig. And suddenly there were apparently like a couple of years ago, there were like some kids developing, American kids developing British accents all of a sudden. And then they discovered, oh, it's due to them watching Peppa Pig.
Yeah. No, I mean, I didn't like develop it as my normal
No,
speaking
yeah.
voice, but like definitely we all tried to do it. And then like there was a phase where my friend and I tried to talk like Valley girls,
Hmm.
which is funny because I live in the Valley now and they don't talk
Yep.
like that. So
It came full circle. Like, see?
yeah, it did.
Nice. What is your favorite movie decade?
So that's a hard one.
Hmm.
I really do. I like the 80s. I'm a fan of a lot of like horror stuff that came out of the 80s, but also
Hmm.
like that the 90s, like that was also a good golden like once Scream came out, as we mentioned, we got a lot of
Yeah.
good movies out for that. But then even um 2022 was a huge year for horror. Like that
Hmm.
was the horror renaissance. You had X, you had Pearl,
Hmm. Hmm.
um and last year was great with like Evil Dead Rise. This year, I'm pretty disappointed in horror. But yeah, it's kind of hard to pick because there's just so many, as far as horror goes, there's so many good years, but like there's something about like movies in general from the 80s too, and the 80s and 90s, like your Beetlejuices,
Yeah.
Heathers, like all movies like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's like a certain, I don't know, vibe of that era that's like really fun on screen.
No, 80s definitely has a certain like all every decade has a certain like different vibe. And 80s this to me it's always felt like that's the vibe of guns,
Mhm.
cocaine, and muscle guys just, coming and trying to, coming to rescue you. No,
Yeah.
if no matter if you want it or not, they're coming
Yes.
to rescue you, okay? Because they have
Hmm.
muscles.
Yep.
Like, that's where the guys like Arnold and Stallone were like the huge box office stars with
Hmm.
even larger muscles.
Yep.
And like, movies like Commando or Cobra or those kind of things, just yeah. And a lot of cocaine apparently.
Yeah.
You know, Hollywood and drugs? No shit.
Yeah, it's so true.
No, that's all right. Do you have any movie hot takes you would like to share?
Oh, I don't love Scream 2. Like,
Oh.
that's, yeah, which like everyone is so hot on Scream
Mm-hmm.
2,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't understand it. Like, I mean, obviously, I enjoy the movie because it is a Scream movie, but when
Mm-hmm.
it's always lower in my rankings, and like people were like, that's a jail take. And I'm like, I don't understand it.
And why is
Like,
that?
I know it's campy, I know it's supposed to be campy, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it just like treaded the line of like what's campy and what's like, all right, this is, and I hate saying dumb because I wouldn't put Scream in the dumb category, but it
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't my style. Oh, same with Malignant. I hate the movie Malignant. And like so many people are fans of Malignant and they think it's the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, this is so stupid. Like
Mm-hmm.
I would put Malignant in the stupid category. Like
Okay.
it's fully blown past camp into stupid land.
I still haven't seen Malignant, but I've actually heard kind of split opinions on that movie. Not
Yes.
just from you, because I know definitely people that are very high on that movie.
Yes.
And there are people on the like you're saying, on the opposite side, it was like, this is not great movie, guys. What the
No.
fuck is wrong? Like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I really want to watch it because
You should watch it. Like, go into it with, a blank mind
hmm
and just watch it and let me know I'm curious to hear what you have to say,
hmm
just because it really is. A lot of my friends love it. And then my one friend, Raj, who's a big movie guy, you guys would get along.
hmm
He's kind of self aware. Like, he loves it, but he knows how stupid it is. Like, he's able to talk with me about, like, how dumb some of it is, but he admires that. So, like, that I can jive with. But, like, I will not be watching it again by choice.
That's pretty much me. Like, I love many dumb movies, and I'll just
Yeah.
be like, "This is a dumb movie. Nothing makes sense, but it's a great movie. 5 out of 5, no questions." Like,
Yeah.
like I'm again child of I was born in '90s, so I was raised on like '80s movies, '90s movies. So for the longest time, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, those were my heroes. Those are like
Hmm.
the cool guys. Those were like yeah, and those movies were the fucking, the peak of cinema. And for a
Yeah.
while, I was like, I grew up watching First Blood, which I've probably seen a bit too young, to be honest. But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So, and Scream 2, you just think it's too campy then? Is that the reason you don't
Yeah.
like it?
Like, I feel like I was way more invested in the storyline of the first one. And
Hmm
then I'm not going to reveal like who did what at the end, but like when we finally see, who's behind Ghostface, I was like, really? Like,
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
Like, I was so underwhelmed.
Okay, fair, fair. Like
Yeah.
I've only seen it once, and I remember loving both first two, and even the third one is not as bad. Like I think
Yeah.
no, third one is like third one is usually yes, it's probably the weakest. Well,
Yes.
actually, from the original, yes. My hot take probably would be I don't really care for the five. I know everybody and their mom loves the fifth one. I'm kind
Yeah.
of like no. No, that just was too much to handle for me. But the sixth one was
Really?
actually, yeah, because I feel like, look, and I even wrote this in my review for this. I feel like because that was the first movie without Wes Craven, right? Because he's
Hmm.
passed away,
Yes.
and he brought this new thing, this self-awareness to the franchise, and the people who were supposed to take over the mantle kind of did it a bit too much. And I feel like now, if this was, and I know this is a shite criteria for me to judge the movie by, but I feel like if this was Wes, I feel like he would have the balls to go with a different direction because the meta thing has been done so much. It's no
Hmm.
longer as clever. And
Hmm.
also, I feel like that story was a bit too convoluted for its own sake.
Well,
I'm like,
that's
this
interesting.
is just like again, like I actually like the sixth one, and I was on board until the last 15 minutes where there's a one character that literally gets stabbed like 15 times, and
Yeah.
that person is apparently fine at the end of the movie.
Yes.
I'm like, oh yeah, that person is dead, and no, they're not. I'm like, so it's a Scream movie where people get stabbed once and they die, and
Hmm.
suddenly this character gets stabbed like 15 times, and he's like, still fine, guys. Oh, I'm so happy I
Yeah.
survived.
It's like
And
they missed all the right arteries, apparently.
yes, apparently, that's and I think I've written something like if that's the safest place for you to be last 15 minutes of Scream 6 because you know nothing can happen to you.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
That's great. No, any other movie hot takes you would like to share?
Not not on the top of my head that I can think of.
That's all good. That's all good. So with that, we can move to the underrated part of this podcast where I ask you, Diana, who do you think is the most underrated actor we have right now?
Mia Goth, because I feel like she's just celebrated in the
Mhm.
horror community,
Okay.
which as she should be. But the Academy hates horror, so she's
Yes.
like never been nominated when she should have been.
Mhm.
And I just like her talent is so amazing. And if people aren't fans of horror, they're just not seeing her. So I feel
Mhm.
like unless she doesn't want to branch out into different genres, but like I
Yeah.
feel like people need to see the work this woman does.
Mm. And even pre like horror, like she's been great in like a lot of Lars von Trier stuff, like Nymphomaniac. She was.
Hmm.
You can have opinions on that movie, but I think she's great on that. In both.
I
I
actually
think
haven't
she's one.
seen it, so
It's yeah, many people don't like it, and I cannot blame them.
okay.
It's a I've seen both of them because there's a part one, part two. And yeah, it's a
Hmm.
movie about an nymphomaniac. It's a lot to take.
Yeah.
I'll just say DIY abortion. So that's all
Oh
you need to
boy.
know.
Uh,
Okay, so since you've chosen Miyako for an actor, I'm kind of interested to know who you've chosen for the actress.
yeah. This one is hard because, like, I mean, I really just think I'm really just such a huge Mia Goth stan. Honestly, I can. It's like I
Hmm.
couldn't
Hmm.
think of anyone else really that comes to
That's fine.
mind.
Hmm.
I'm sure at 2 o'clock in the morning I will wake up and think of something and been like, "Damn, I should have said that."
Yeah. So you're okay. So you know what? Let me ask you this question. So do you believe the news that came out about 2 months ago about her kicking somebody in the head? While shooting
No.
Maxine. There were some.
I
You know what
mean,
I'm talking about?
it's hard to listen. If that did happen, that sucks. But then reading the complaint further on, this person was like complaining about having to lie in dirt when he was like
Hmm.
cast as a dead body. So
Hmm.
I'm like, how much of this is real and how much of this is for clout?
Yeah.
Obviously, if I'm wrong and she really did that, like
Hmm.
hold my feet to the fire, I will eat my words.
Hmm.
But at first, when I saw that, I was really taken aback and I was like, oh my God. And then
Yep.
once I read the complaint a little further, I'm like, well, this guy sounds like he wanted more to do on the film or he wasn't happy with the role he was cast in
Hmm.
and is now taking it out on everyone.
Yeah. And there has not been anything else since, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, not that
So
I've heard. That
again,
movie comes out in July, so I'm excited for it.
me too, me too. And we'll see if anything ever comes out that,
Yeah.
confirms or denies that, you know.
Well, I'll be looking out for like dead body number 19 on camera.
Or maybe that guy just, is gonna get cut just because of that. We're like, you
Right?
know what?
Oh
No.
my God. Could you
Petty.
imagine?
That'll be petty as fuck.
Oh my God.
All right. So who do you think is the most underrated director then we have?
That's a great question. I mean, I guess I'm going to stick on the horror train and just say Ty West because, I mean, he's great. Again, he's great in the horror genre, but
Hmm.
I think it just has to do with being in that genre that by default makes you underrated
Yeah.
because it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
No,
he's phenomenal. Like
yeah.
even just when they shot X during the pandemic and like he used the lenses because they couldn't find or I think it would have been too much like to ship out with all the restrictions.
Hmm.
The like proper filming equipment needed to get that like old film look. I don't know exactly what millimeter film it is, but
Hmm.
he did it with all lenses, like on digital cameras and whatever to make it look, and it looks so legit on screen. And
Yep.
then you watch Pearl and there's so many callbacks to the original movies, including that opening shot of the barn
Hmm.
and him writing that story with Mia Goth. Like Goth, he's a phenomenal storyteller. He's a phenomenal director.
Hmm.
Ari Aster too, I would say. Again, another horror director. Not many
Yeah.
people know about him, but he's just so brilliant. Like I look at Midsommar, and there are so many. Like I watch that movie and I learn something new every single time because there's
Hmm.
not one detail that's left unnoticed. Like everything has a meaning. You
Yeah.
Hereditary too. Every little thing has a meaning. It could be the slightest. I think there was I forget what they're called, sigil, like on a
Yeah.
pole or
Yeah.
something. And it just ties back to the whole thing. And I'm like, that is one thing that you have to pause the movie to look
Hmm.
at. But he
Hmm.
made sure it was in there. Like, that's brilliant.
I remember watching Hereditary for first and only time so far, and like I still remember the chills I got. It's not like, it's not a jump scare kind of movie, which I really
Yeah.
appreciate. So, but it's
Yes.
like a tense as fuck. Like you're
Hmm.
tense because there's some weird shit is happening,
Yeah.
and then the last half hour happens, and the shot where he wakes up and he's like, something's up. And there's a pan out where you see this entire room, and suddenly you notice in a corner of this fucking room, his mom is on like a ceiling and just like,
Yes.
like this. And I'm like, oh fuck. And it's, and any other movie would just cut to her just being on a ceiling, like, "Arr!" And
Yep.
jump scare. And now that movie just wants you to find that in that corner. And I was like, holy shit, that's fucking scary.
Yeah.
And I would think like Jordan Peele would be in that conversation too.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
like talk
Oh my
about like
God. Get Out is my favorite thing he's ever
mm,
done. I've seen all his movies. I liked Us, but it freaked even me as like someone who doesn't get freaked out by
Hmm.
horror. That freaked me out a little bit too much because like when it verges on dystopia, that's when I kind of get a little weirded out.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, it's you know what? It's highly unlikely that like someone in your group of friends is a slasher trying to kill you. It's
Hmm.
more likely that the government has clones of us hiding somewhere. Even though that's also like unlikely, like it's slightly more likely. Um, so
I
that
see.
anything dystopian kind of freaks me out. Like Squid Game, I can't watch because I'm
Hmm.
like, this definitely I could see it happening.
Hmm.
But yeah, Get Out, I just thought was so good. I watched it on the plane going to visit my family back in December,
Hmm.
and I could not stop raving about it. He's another one, like with the details.
Yep.
And she's got all the pictures of her ex-boyfriend, and then at the end, she's drinking the milk and eating the Fruit Loops. And I'm like, oh my God.
And it's
This
separate.
yeah. I'm like, this is so brilliant. And the fact that oh my God, I don't remember the main character's name, but he used the cotton to like plug up so he didn't hear
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
clinking of the
Yeah.
glass. And obviously the ties that has back to slavery and working in the cotton fields.
Hmm.
I thought that was brilliant. Like Jordan Peele is phenomenal.
Yep. And see, like speaking of actresses being ignored for horror performances, we can talk about obviously Hereditary. We have
Yes.
uh
Tony Collette.
Toni Collette. Yeah, thank you. I was
Oh
like,
my
it's
God,
Collette.
phenomenal actress.
And in Us, I still have argued for Lupita Nyong'o for a while.
Yes.
And
Oh,
the
she
new,
freaked me out when she was doing the monologue in that
yeah,
voice. I
yeah.
was like, I am terrified right
And
now.
the kind of like ballet dance ending scene.
Yes.
I'm like, damn, and the music playing, and I'm like, yes, Slay. Like like I don't support this, but I kind of do. And and what warms my heart is the new Academy president actually said like her and Toni Collette were the biggest omissions Academy's done in recent past. Like, and they definitely should have been nominated. Lupita Nyong'o
Oh, I
for
love
Us.
hearing that. Yeah, I wrote for Scribe, I wrote a whole article about how the Academy hates horror.
Mm-hmm.
And I did mention Toni Collette because that performance, I hadn't seen Us
Yes.
yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that whole performance in Hereditary, just like the raw like emotion that she
Mm-hmm.
captures in that movie, and then also when she's got to be creepy, there's just like there's such a dynamic range.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I thought you seen oh no, I
No,
haven't
I
seen
hadn't
Us
seen it before I've
before, yeah.
written the
Okay,
article.
okay,
Yeah,
okay, yeah. No, 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 I
yeah,
get it. I was like, wait, you talk so confidently about a movie
yeah.
you
No,
haven't
I just
seen.
hadn't watched. I wrote the article before I had watched it. The only Peel movie I had seen at the time was Nope,
Yeah,
which I
yeah.
also enjoyed. Nope.
Nope is like Nope. I feel like it's one of those movies you need to watch like several times to fully appreciate it. I feel like that's his densest movie, like where it has so much packed in it. It's like,
Yes,
oh, he's talking about this in this scene, and this scene is about this. It's even more like if Get Out is packed, this is that times 10. And
yes.
I already own it on 4K. I'm like, I need to get back to it because this is great. And I think
We
in
saw
20 years'
it in
time,
IMAX and Dolby Digital.
oh, that must
Yeah,
have been
yeah.
awesome.
It was
I,
awesome. It was loud, but it was awesome.
I still remember that being omitted from best cinematography, Oscar last year or the year before. It was I
Yeah,
thought it was like that's just, people were like, this is fucking crazy. This is just
yeah.
and then I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is fucking crazy. Like,
And when you do the Universal backlot tour, they
mhm.
have the whole Nope like Jupiter's Claim set. So that
Oh,
whole movie, it's really cool. Like it was all pretty much filmed on a Universal lot, except for the whole ranch where he lives.
yeah.
That was somewhere else in California. I want to say like 45 minutes
Hmm.
to an hour or something away. I don't remember exactly where, but when they're doing the commercial in the movie, like they're on a backlot in Universal, like I know exactly where they are. So that's pretty neat.
Hmm.
And then the scenes with like the monkey, like that's all done in Universal. So I thought that was cool. But it's really fun. And then if you go to Halloween Horror Nights,
Hmm.
they actually, when you do the tram, you get off the tram and you get to walk through some of the sets and you get to walk through the Nope set. And they
Hmm.
actually have the tethered from us like
Oh,
around you.
nice.
So people dressed up and like with the scissors. And I was like, that was really cool.
That must be very cool. Like, I never
Yeah, it's kind of
actually
hard
been
not to
to.
like want to get like go rogue and look around, but like
Yeah.
obviously you can't.
Yeah. I've never been to any of these like theme nights and parks where there's actual actors playing roles? Because it's not a big thing
Oh, it's
here.
fun.
No, I've seen videos of people on YouTube doing it, so I know what it
Yeah,
is. Like, and I'm like, that kind of could be fun. Like,
it is.
if I ever go to like LA or New York or these places, I definitely
Yeah,
need to search that out because that seems so awesome.
yeah.
That just, yeah. And again, some great picks. So I know the next one is a bit difficult because it's quite general, but do you have a movie you would consider underrated? You would want to shout out?
Yeah, so this is kind of a real cult movie, and you need to go into it with the lens of like it was done during a different time, and the director has spoken like he wasn't as open-minded and like he didn't learn as like he didn't know as much and he would make different decisions.
Yeah.
But it's called Forbidden Zone, and that was directed by Danny Elfman's brother, Richard Elfman.
Okay.
And it's very much like a cabaret performance. We get to see like Danny performing in there as this one character, the devil.
Hmm.
There's a lot of sex. There's a lot of like the beginning opened up at this part was like what rubbed me the wrong way and what Richard has said he would do differently. But the
Hmm.
if you watch the black and white version, it's clear the person opening it up it was done in blackface.
Hmm.
But when you watch, they have a colorized version now. So it's redone to make him look like a clown instead, telling a story. So he's trying to like undo what he's done. Um, but it's kind of like Rocky Horror Picture Show on crack. A lot of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It's more about the music because how Danny started his career was with his brother Richard. They were like street performers in Paris.
Hmm.
Um, and then they started doing it in LA. So a lot of those songs were like the performances they did, they kind of wanted to capture it in a film. So
Hmm.
it's underrated to me. It's definitely an acquired taste, but it's a cult film.
I've never even heard of this, so I like looked it
Really?
up. Yeah, no, I have not. No, that surprises me because I've heard of a lot of movies. That surprise and then it looks wild. As
It
you
is.
said, it looks like a Rocky Horror Picture on crack. That's a great description.
Yeah.
I've all right, like it's not streaming anywhere because I guess that's very acquired taste. So I'm guessing
It
that's
was
not
on
the
Tubi. Do you guys get
okay.
Tubi?
I don't think we do.
Okay.
I think last time I checked, I know of it. I think last time I checked, we still don't. Like so
Okay.
many of these like free streaming services, like we still don't get. So
Yeah.
yeah, UK. But you would think like like we are living behind times, and it's just like why? Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but that's going on my ever-growing watch list because I'm always up for wild times for cult
Yeah.
classics, and if it's done by somebody who's Danny Elfman's brother,
Hmm.
that that is very intriguing to me.
Yeah.
1980. It's okay. All right. I
Yep.
like. And what would you say is the most underrated TV show or something you would want to shout out?
I'm just going to say wrestling in general
Okay.
because I feel like wrestling fans get a bad rap. Like
Hmm.
the whole joke is like they live in their mom's basement and they smell. And I'm like, no, no, no. I live in my own apartment. I wear fantastic perfume. It's Joe Malone, Peony and Blush. I like to think I'm cute, like when I don't look like a potato as I do right now. And just give wrestling a try. Like,
Yeah.
ignore the stereotypes. These
Hmm.
people are putting their bodies on the line for our entertainment.
Hmm.
The writing is genius. There's never been a better time to be a wrestling fan. We've got AEW, we've got WWE, TNA, like all these companies, because they know they have to compete so much. New Japan, they're all putting out their best work right now. So if you're
Hmm.
not watching wrestling, you're missing out.
Hmm. Great pick. I'll just like to add one thing. If
Yes.
you don't look like a potato. Like,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
if you look like a potato, that's like there must be like some sort of like a unique California potato because like that means everything looks better in California. Like
Oh,
this is
thank
yeah.
you.
So no, just rest. Okay, like look, I might try it at some point. Like I'm still there's no like stereotype holding me back. I just feel like what it is.
Mhm.
Wrestling to me, it's almost like I need to get into like anime, right? Like I know there's so
Yes.
many anime shows, great anime shows to watch. However, it's so much. There's
Mhm.
so much history, so much stuff. It's almost feels like a challenge in a way,
Mhm.
and also for a person who's a completionist, once I started with something, I really would like to finish it. And if
Yeah,
there's
that's gonna be
a,
hard.
I was gonna say, and if there's a, I know wrestling goes back to 80s, 70s. So if there's
Yeah,
like
even
six,
like that's when it became kind of the pro wrestling. But like if you even
hmm
go back further, there's like the
hmm
beginnings of it
hmm
all. A show you might like that kind of will give you a peek into it is called Dark Side of the Ring.
hmm
Vice does it. And it's a documentary kind of how like mostly older wrestlers, but like problems they had. So like a lot of it has to do with like drug overdoses or like
hmm
there was one episode called The Plane Ride from Hell, and it's
hmm
like basically the flight was delayed and they all got drunk before it took off, and like it
hmm
was just alleged like assault and whatever. But it's interesting, like you kind of learn who the big names in wrestling are through that show.
Yeah.
If you don't have full time to commit to wrestling. I would say if you do catch a live event, like a not one that you have to go in person, but like a premium live event, we
hmm
get them on Peacock here. I think in the UK, you might have to subscribe to WWE Network. So I would
hmm
say if they have it on in a pub or something, or
hmm
you can catch a replay somewhere, because that's when they're going to be putting out their best foot, especially WrestleMania is coming up next month. Like that's the event you want to watch. You could go into it knowing nothing, and I'm telling you, like they'll fill you in on what you need to know, and if
hmm
anything, you'll just be taken aback by like these displays of what they can do.
hmm No, wrestling sounds like a fascinating feat. Like it does
Yeah.
sound fascinating. And again, your and Shane's podcast like makes it more accessible, which I
Yeah,
do
thanks.
appreciate.
Yeah.
And again, I love the banter. Like it's just it's so great. It's so great. I had a question, but I now it just escaped me, so maybe it'll come back to me.
Okay.
But it's been a blast. I've had a great time, and
Yeah,
I've
same
asked
here.
you so many questions in over 2 hours now. So let's flip the table. Do you have a question or two for me?
I guess I'm trying to think if there's like anything
hmm
because we kind of covered like maybe obviously we live in different places and like you're interacting with so many Americans and like you
hmm
gave a little peek at like what your perception like based on what you hear.
hmm
Um so like what's I don't know, what's maybe the biggest surprise you learned about Americans or like what's maybe something you'd want to do here or like yeah, like
hmm
something like what's your like overall thoughts about the American culture? Like, is it different than what you expected?
It is. It definitely is. I am surprised. Like obviously, like I've talked to many SIFT people,
Yeah.
meaning many. I would imagine we are a group of smart people. So like we are like like we like because the stereotype is like your stereotypical American is dumb and very obsessed with
Yeah.
America, like the patriotic, like oh we need to protect the world even though we're gonna start the war, wars on many places and just stuff
Mhm.
like that, right? And then once you actually get down to a person to person level and you talk to them, and it's like you realize no, many Americans are actually like quite aware. Many Americans actually are aware of how everybody sees them and they don't
Yeah.
like it. And then
Yes.
once you and then what always fascinates me is how it's so much different for, you again, you're from New York, originally from New York, right?
Mhm.
Like I talked to he's from St. Louis, I talked to many other people from like Chicago, from all these places, and like
Yeah.
you live in the same country, but not really, because your country consists of so many different countries with so like
Yeah.
slightly different history, even though you share like a one common history, of course. And
Yeah.
it's like like different cultures, different cuisines, different this, different this. So I'm always fascinated by the tiny details on some people or some countries they get cold. So and then you go to California where cold means, as you said, 55 Fahrenheit, which
Yeah.
I don't even know how much that is in Celsius. Like, but I know
Yeah.
it's pretty good. I know, so it's always fascinating to me to talk to people from America and just learning their perspective. And just, yeah, that's no, it's always fascinating to me talk to people like you because
Mhm.
I love people who are honest. I love people who are like unfiltered or like have
Yeah.
zero to no filter and just give it to me straight.
Mhm.
And then don't take themselves too seriously, which I think
Yeah.
that's the golden really rule. Like, if you take yourself too seriously, you kind of laugh at yourself. What's the point?
Right.
You know,
That's so true.
yeah. I don't know if I've answered your question, to be honest.
No, you did. That was a
All right.
great job. And you bring up a good point because like obviously growing up on the other side of the country,
Mm-hmm.
like what we learn in history class is so different. So like it was very much focused on like the British Revolution or
Mm-hmm.
the American Revolution with the British and like the 13 colonies and whatever, because that was dominantly East Coast. And then we
Mm-hmm.
expanded westward. But here, like people learn about the gold rush, which we learned a little bit about, but like they focus
Mm-hmm.
on it more here. And there's more focus on like Native American land, even though we do have that in New York and New Jersey. There's a lot of like focus on Native American land. It's
Mm-hmm.
not touched on as much as it is out here because it's just overshadowed by the 13 colonies and all that.
Yeah,
So
no.
it's interesting.
And again, like one thing I've heard, like it's what is it? Like it's only 10% of Americans have passports, so they could actually like travel outside.
Oh, wow.
Which again, like see, like when you first hear it, it's like, oh wow, but then you realize how massive like the United States of America actually is, right?
Yeah.
Where you can drive 4 hours and you still within one state.
Hmm.
So I'm, at that point, I'm like, I yeah, it kind of makes sense because if they want to travel, like let's say you, like you live in New York, so as you said, like, you want to go to Disney, so you go to Florida, and it's a
Hmm.
totally different environment to what you used to, and then
Yeah.
you would go, to like Las Vegas, to
Yep.
Nevada, and that's again something totally different, even though you don't need a passport to travel
Yeah.
because. So like that always fascinates me. Well, you know
Yeah.
what? Actually, that was my question for you as well. So since you were like, Italian heritage, Italian proud,
Mhm.
have you ever been back to Italy? Like, have you ever visited?
No, I want to. I'm actually looking into is really loosely because I've done
Hmm.
absolutely nothing for it except ask my mom like what our direct lineage is. But
Yeah,
I think I'm eligible for like the dual citizenship because
nice.
I'm like 100% Italian. Like all my great grandparents, I think my great grandparents, like they are all from Italy, and
Hmm.
I know there's a point because there was a rule with some year, like if
Hmm.
someone's born before a certain year or something, you need to get a lawyer involved, and
Hmm.
that's costly and time consuming. So I'm pretty sure I fall under that category. And that's a lot of work that I don't feel like doing right now.
Hmm.
But I am interested in getting dual citizenship, especially with the way our country's going. Like if I
Hmm.
need a place to run.
Yeah. And do you know, like, roughly, where your lineage is from, like, where specifically in
Yeah.
Italy? I mean, oh,
So my mom's family side of the family came from Messina in
hmm.
Sicily. And I think my dad either one side is also from Sicily and one's Napolitan, or they're both Napolitano. I don't
Ah,
know exactly. I know more
hmm.
about my mom's side.
So mafia. So
Yeah.
pretty much like, mafia and Napoli. Okay. That's some mix right there. Like,
Yeah.
okay. No, like I hope you eventually get to go. Like,
I know. Have you been?
see, like my girlfriend and I, we were planning to go before COVID hit. Like
Uh,
we were like she's already been once with like a long time ago with her school, and I
mhm.
never been. But it's
Yeah.
it's kind of close from here from where I am. So it's
Yeah.
like it's always like, yeah, we should go, and I want to go. But it's just like so many other places I want to go and visit. So it's like which to pick first, and also money.
Yeah. Oh my
You
God.
know,
Yeah.
it's not like it's traveling, especially nowadays, traveling ain't
Yeah.
cheap. It's
Everything's so expensive right now.
oh, you preaching to the choir, girl. Just oh, yeah. Life in the UK is not any e like it's slightly easier in some ways, like healthcare and
Yes.
stuff, but also it's when it comes to expenses, yeah,
Hmm.
no, the economy is great in a great shape right now, and we have nothing to complain about. Everything's working fine. It's just also all is well. All is well. Any other questions, by the way?
No, none that I can think of. It's
Oh,
awesome, like talking about you and learning about
mm-hmm.
talking with you and learning about you. Not gonna put in that or fulfill that American stereotype. No, I meant
No.
talking with you.
No, you will only
Yeah,
do
I'm
it
finally
after.
meeting you face
Uh,
to face rather than just over Slack, you know?
no, honestly, same. This is why I started this, and this is
Yeah.
why it's been awesome talking. And actually, as you said, putting face to the name you
Yeah.
see on Slack. So if people listening to this have enjoyed it as much as I have, where would they go and follow you?
You can follow me at Diana Gebbia. My last name is spelled Gebbia on Instagram. I don't post as much there anymore, but like my DMs are always open. If you want to talk
Dangerous.
movies or TV or something, like I like if people want to talk about that stuff and they have opinions, I'm
Hmm.
always down to chat about it.
Hmm.
And then yeah, though I have links on that page to like my website where you could see my reel. I'm on the FNL Network talk show, so you could check that out. And then, of course, Ruthless Obsession. Shane and I put out new episodes every Wednesday. So that's under the SPDM crew, which obviously you're a part of too. So yeah.
That's correct. That's so correct. No, honestly, thank you so much for spending the time, for sacrificing your morning, and it's been a blast.
Yes.
Cannot thank you enough. And if, as always, if people want to find me, lostinthemovies.co.uk, this podcast every other Friday, or in Movies Lost on Letterboxd. So as Diana mentioned, this podcast is part of the SPDM Crew Media. Also, big shout out to HiFlyer Creative for designing my logo. To see what else they have happening, visit HiFlyerCreative.com. So, until next time, bye bye!